Imagine waking up one morning in 1933 to a world where the money you trusted your entire life could be taken away from you with a single government order. Across the United States, Americans were stunned when the government announced that all gold coins, gold bars, and gold certificates, assets that families had saved for generations, were now illegal to hold. This wasn't a suggestion, it was law. President Franklin D. Roosevelt had signed Executive Order 6102, making it a federal offense to own most forms of gold, under the threat of fines up to $10,000 and even imprisonment. People were terrified, confused, and many felt completely betrayed. Families who had kept gold in safes, drawers, or buried in the backyard suddenly faced a choice: surrender their savings or risk breaking the law. For decades, gold had been a safe store of value, a hedge against inflation, and a cornerstone of financial security. Suddenly, it became a tool of government control. Ordinary citizens who had believed in the safety of their wealth now discovered how fragile security can be when laws change. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe, because understanding this story could protect your wealth even today. This isn't just history, it's a warning and a guide. Imagine if something as simple as owning gold, the most trusted financial asset of its time, could be taken away overnight. How would you respond if the same happened in today's world with bank accounts, digital money, or other assets at risk? The stakes were real, and the lessons are timeless. Families, small businesses, and even large investors had to rethink everything about how they stored and safeguarded wealth. Some complied immediately, trusting the system, while others resisted quietly, hiding coins and bars, hoping the government wouldn't find them. The tension, fear, and uncertainty in households across America were palpable. This first part of our story sets the stage for understanding why gold was so vital, why the government acted, and how ordinary people faced choices that would test their courage, resourcefulness, and understanding of risk. History shows us that financial security is never absolute. It depends on laws, policies, and sometimes sheer foresight. The story of the 1933 gold confiscation didn't happen in a vacuum. The United States was in the grips of the Great Depression. Banks were failing at an alarming rate. Unemployment had soared to record highs, and families across the country were struggling just to put food on the table. People turned to gold as a safe haven, rushing to exchange their paper currency for coins or bars, hoping it would protect them from the chaos of collapsing banks. But the government saw this hoarding of gold as a threat to the stability of the entire economy. Roosevelt's administration believed that by consolidating gold reserves, they could regain control over the money supply, stabilize the banking system, and restore public confidence. Executive Order 6102 demanded that Americans deliver all gold coins, bullion, and gold certificates to the Federal Reserve in exchange for paper money at the official rate. The law effectively nationalized private wealth. Overnight, personal freedom to hold assets had been overridden by what was considered an emergency measure for economic stability. Imagine walking into your local bank, where you had trusted decades of savings, only to be told that the gold in your possession no longer belonged to you. Families panicked, unsure if they should comply or risk fines and imprisonment. Small business owners, who had kept gold as a backup in case banks failed, faced impossible decisions. Some people tried to hide their wealth, burying coins in gardens or locking bars in secret compartments, hoping to avoid detection. Others, desperate or fearful, reluctantly handed over gold they had saved for generations. The confiscation caused shockwaves through American society, shaking trust in both government and financial institutions. It fundamentally changed how people thought about money, ownership, and security. This moment shows us that even assets considered safe can be vulnerable to sudden policy changes. The 1933 seizure reminds investors today that risk isn't only about markets. It's also about the rules governing your money, which can change overnight. Understanding this context is key to planning wealth protection in any era. When Executive Order 6102 went into effect, compliance was immediate for many, but not universal. Some Americans turned in their gold coins, bullion, and certificates at the official price of $20.67 per ounce. Others hesitated, either out of disbelief, fear of losing decades of savings, or simply distrust of the government. Stories emerged of families burying gold bars in backyards, hiding coins in attics, or stashing certificates in secret compartments. In some cases, people even smuggled gold out of the country, taking extreme risks to protect their wealth. The government had to enforce compliance through inspections, and heavy penalties, fines, and imprisonment were real threats. Interestingly, while the law prohibited gold ownership domestically, it didn't restrict banks or individuals from holding gold overseas, creating opportunities for those with foresight, knowledge, or international connections. For the average citizen, however, the reality was stark. Legal ownership did not guarantee protection. Assets could be seized, restricted, or controlled, even if you thought they were safe. The fear and uncertainty were widespread. Families who had relied on gold for decades suddenly questioned everything they knew about financial security. Ordinary citizens realized, sometimes too late, that being legally right was not enough to protect your wealth when policy and law could override it. Modern investors can learn an important lesson from this. Diversification, foresight, and strategic planning are essential. Holding a single asset, no matter how historically secure, carries risks if the environment changes suddenly. Those who understood loopholes, who acted with foresight, and who prepared for contingencies were far better positioned to survive this crisis than those who relied solely on trusting the government. The 1933 confiscation was a wake-up call, showing that even historically safe assets like gold can become vulnerable when governments act decisively. It teaches a timeless lesson. Financial security isn't just about what you hold, it's about how you protect it and understand the risks surrounding it. By 1934, the government had taken even stronger control over gold through the Gold Reserve Act. This law gave the U.S. Treasury the authority to fix the price of gold, raising it from $20.67 per ounce to $35 per ounce. On one hand, this move helped the government stabilize the banking system and inject confidence into a fragile economy. On the other hand, Americans who had already surrendered their gold at the lower rate lost out on potential gains. Imagine spending decades accumulating gold only to be forced to sell it at a price set by the government far below its new value. The frustration, fear, and sense of injustice were palpable. For the Roosevelt administration, these measures were framed as necessary for national economic recovery. But for ordinary citizens, it was a stark reminder that the value of an asset isn't only determined by the market. It can also be shaped by law, policy, and government intervention. The confiscation wasn't just about collecting gold. It was about consolidating control over wealth. People realized that even a historically safe asset could be influenced, controlled, and effectively seized in extraordinary circumstances. Investors today can draw a crucial lesson. Governments can intervene in ways that directly affect your wealth. Assets that feel untouchable, like gold or cash, may not always remain immune to policy changes. This story also highlights the importance of timing. Those who complied immediately at the official price missed the later revaluation, while those who found ways to preserve their holdings quietly gained a significant advantage. The lesson for modern wealth protection is clear. Anticipate risk, understand policy, diversify, and never rely solely on trust. True financial security comes from awareness, preparation, and a strategy that accounts for both market and regulatory risk. In turbulent times, knowledge and foresight often matter more than the assets themselves. So, what can modern investors learn from the 1933 gold confiscation? First, diversification is essential. Relying entirely on a single type of asset, whether it's gold, stocks, or real estate, can leave you exposed when unexpected events occur. In 1933, people who had all their wealth tied up in gold faced a sudden shock. Some lost potential gains, while others risked imprisonment if they resisted. Second, liquidity and access matter. Owning an asset is not enough. You need to know that you can access it or convert it when circumstances demand. In 1933, citizens had to turn in their gold or face heavy fines. Today, similar principles apply. Your wealth may be frozen in a bank account, restricted through government regulations, or tied up in illiquid investments during crises. Third, timing is critical. Those who sold their gold too early, or who complied immediately, missed potential gains when the price was later revalued. Those who acted strategically, hiding or moving assets to safer locations, gained a significant advantage. Beyond these lessons, the confiscation highlights another point. Understanding the environment is just as important as the assets you hold. Policy changes, economic instability, or sudden government actions can affect your wealth far more than market fluctuations alone. Modern investors need to study history, track policy changes, and prepare contingency plans. Even today, sudden market crashes, geopolitical tensions, or banking restrictions can mirror the risk Americans faced in 1933. Planning ahead, diversifying across assets, and thinking creatively about wealth protection are crucial. Learning from history doesn't just help avoid loss, it can also create opportunities. By understanding the forces that shape past crises, investors can build strategies that protect and grow wealth, even when unexpected events occur. In essence, the 1933 confiscation teaches that preparation, foresight, and flexibility are more valuable than blind trust in any single asset or institution. Another key lesson from the 1933 gold seizure is understanding government motivations. The confiscation was framed as a measure to stabilize the economy, but it also increased federal control over money and wealth. For investors today, this is a reminder that policy decisions are rarely neutral. They are influenced by economic, political, and social pressures. In 1933, the government needed gold to support the banking system, control the money supply, and restore confidence. Citizens who ignored the potential for intervention paid a price, either by losing wealth or by taking risky actions to preserve it. This event also highlights the role of human psychology in financial decisions. People rushed to banks, hoarded assets, or panicked making choices that often worsened their situations. Fear drove behavior, and many acted emotionally rather than strategically. Modern investors face similar challenges during crises. Sudden stock market crashes, political upheavals, or economic instability can trigger panic selling or rash decisions. The lesson is clear. Emotional discipline is as important as the assets you hold. History shows that people who plan calmly, stay informed, and act strategically during crises are far more likely to preserve wealth than those who react in panic. Another insight is that diversification alone isn't enough. You must also consider access and mobility of assets. In 1933, even owning gold wasn't enough if you had no way to safeguard it or move it securely. Today, this could translate into having offshore accounts, investing in assets that aren't easily frozen, or holding physical assets in secure locations. Preparation, foresight, and adaptability remain the core pillars of wealth protection. The 1933 confiscation reminds us that financial security is fragile if you ignore government policy, human psychology, or the need for strategic planning. It's not just about what you own. It's about understanding the forces around your wealth, anticipating risks, and making choices that keep you protected, even when the unexpected happens. Fast forward to today, and the lessons of 1933 remain incredibly relevant. Governments still intervene in financial crises, though gold confiscation is rare now. Bank bailouts, capital controls, account freezes, or new financial regulations can impact your assets just as dramatically. The principle remains: no asset is completely safe without understanding the political and regulatory environment. Investors who ignore this risk may find their wealth less secure than they imagined. Modern strategies to mitigate these risks include diversifying across multiple asset classes, holding part of your wealth internationally, or keeping physical assets in secure, accessible locations. The 1933 confiscation also teaches the importance of timing and awareness. Being proactive, knowing potential risks, monitoring policy changes, and acting before a crisis hits can make the difference between preserving wealth and losing it. Another lesson is that opportunity often arises in times of crisis. Those who were able to move, convert, or protect assets during 1933 sometimes gained tremendous advantages when the economy stabilized or the gold price was adjusted. This shows that crises are not only periods of risk, but also periods of potential reward for those prepared. Investors today can apply the same principles: anticipate regulatory shifts, plan contingencies, and maintain flexibility. History repeatedly demonstrates that reliance on a single asset, no matter how safe, exposes you to unnecessary risk. By studying 1933, we learn that understanding the broader context, the policies, the regulations, and even human behavior, is just as important as owning wealth itself. In short, preparation, strategy, and foresight are timeless tools for protecting financial security. The past is not merely a story, it's a guide for anyone serious about safeguarding wealth in uncertain times. Stories from 1933 also highlight human ingenuity and resilience in the face of financial threats. Some families successfully hid gold for decades, carefully passing it down through generations, while others converted their wealth into alternative forms, such as jewelry, art, or foreign currency, to stay ahead of government restrictions. The common thread among those who preserved their wealth was foresight, planning, and creativity. They understood that blindly trusting any government or institution was risky, and that proactive measures could safeguard decades of hard work. Modern investors can take similar lessons. Consider assets that are flexible, mobile, and not entirely dependent on a single system or location. Physical assets, digital currencies, or investments in secure foreign institutions can serve as buffers against potential interventions. Another important insight from 1933 is that preparation is more valuable than reaction. People who acted before enforcement or who anticipated the government's moves avoided unnecessary losses, while those who waited until the last moment often faced heavy consequences. Emotional discipline and strategic thinking were just as important as the assets themselves. This is why studying historical crises is so powerful. It teaches us not only what to hold, but how to act when rules, policies, or crises change unexpectedly. Today, we face different challenges: banking freezes, regulatory changes, market crashes, or geopolitical tensions. But the principles remain the same. The combination of foresight, diversification, adaptability, and risk awareness is timeless. Investors who understand this are better prepared to protect their wealth, even in volatile or uncertain environments. In essence, 1933 shows that survival and success in financial crises aren't determined solely by what you own, but by how you think, plan, and execute. Learning from history equips modern investors to make smarter, more secure, and resilient financial decisions. By now, you might be wondering, what should you do if something similar happens today? While history rarely repeats exactly, patterns often rhyme. Governments act decisively in times of economic crises, sometimes at the expense of individual wealth. In 1933, gold was suddenly targeted. Today, digital assets, bank accounts, or investments could face restrictions, taxation, or regulation during crises. The key lesson is proactive planning. Diversification across multiple asset classes, holding a portion of wealth internationally, and maintaining physical or liquid assets outside the immediate reach of regulatory interventions can all reduce vulnerability. Understanding economic trends, fiscal and monetary policies, and geopolitical risks can help anticipate threats before they materialize. Those who prepare in advance are far more likely to protect and even grow wealth during turbulent times, while those who react only after a crisis hits often suffer losses. Another important takeaway is the role of emotional discipline. Panic selling, fear-driven decisions, and overreaction can erode wealth faster than any government action. History shows that the most successful investors combine strategy with foresight, staying calm and making informed choices while others act impulsively. Additionally, creative thinking and adaptability are crucial. In 1933, families who converted gold into jewelry, moved assets overseas, or found other innovative ways to secure their wealth preserved it. Today, similar strategies, using secure vaults, international investments, or alternative assets, can serve the same purpose. Ultimately, the 1933 gold confiscation teaches that wealth protection is not just about owning assets, but about understanding risk, anticipating policy shifts, and making informed strategic moves before a crisis hits. Investors who internalize these lessons can navigate uncertainty more confidently and safeguard their financial future against unexpected disruptions. In conclusion, the 1933 gold confiscation is more than just a historical event. It's a blueprint for modern wealth protection. It shows how government policies, economic crises, and sudden interventions can impact even the most trusted assets. For investors today, the takeaway is clear. Diversification, preparation, and awareness are essential. Don't rely solely on one type of asset, one bank, or one country. Spread risk across multiple forms, physical assets, liquid investments, international holdings, and alternative options. Planning ahead, understanding policies, and being alert to economic shifts are key strategies that can make the difference between preserving wealth and losing it. The story also teaches the importance of foresight and adaptability. In 1933, families who thought creatively and acted strategically, hiding gold, converting it, or storing it abroad, were able to protect their savings. Modern investors can do the same by thinking ahead, using tools available today, and not waiting until a crisis forces reactive decisions. Emotional discipline is equally important. Panic can destroy wealth faster than policy. Those who plan calmly, analyze risks, and act strategically are the ones who preserve and grow their wealth even in turbulent times. Finally, history is not just a lesson, it's a guide. Understanding the events of 1933, the psychology behind human reactions, and the government's role provides actionable insights that remain relevant nearly a century later. If you found this story valuable, comment below sharing how you plan to protect your wealth and share this video to help others learn these crucial lessons. Remember, the 1933 gold confiscation proves one thing. Knowledge, foresight, and strategic action are the most powerful tools for financial security. History equips us to face uncertainty, safeguard assets, and make smarter, more informed decisions in any economic environment. Protecting wealth isn't about luck. It's about learning from the past, acting in the present, and preparing for the future.